I couldn't believe my eyes. Seriously, you guys? I walk out onto my porch, coffee in hand, ready to enjoy the morning. And what do I see? Bright yellow. Off limits by order of HOA tape. Plastered. All over. Buster's favorite spot. You know Buster, my old golden retriever. He's got his own little comfy bed enclosure thing I built for him right there in the corner. It's nothing fancy, just a few pieces of wood to make a little windbreak and a cozy spot for his bed. He loves it. And now, yellow tape. Like it's a crime scene. I was literally shaking. My coffee almost went flying. Are you kidding me right now? I probably yelled it a little too loud. Good thing my closest neighbor is a good ways off. But I knew. Oh, I knew who was behind this. Brenda. Freaking Bylaw. Let me back up a bit. So, like 3 days ago, Brenda Bylaw, she's our HOA's self-appointed aesthetic compliance officer, or some nonsense title she probably made up. She shows up at my door. Clipboard in hand, of course. Always the clipboard. She's got this pinched look on her face, like she smelled something bad. Which, around her, I often feel like I have. Alex, she starts. No hello, no nothing. We need to discuss the unapproved structure on your porch. And I'm like, structure? What structure? I'm looking around, thinking maybe a bird built a giant nest overnight or something. She points, with her pen, at Buster's little bed area. That, she says, like it's a 10-story monstrosity, that is in clear violation of Section 7, subsection B, regarding unapproved alterations to the exterior visual harmony of the community. I just stared at her. It's a dog bed. For my elderly dog, it's like 2 feet high. It is a structure, Alex. And it was not pre-approved by the Architectural Review Committee, which, by the way, I'm pretty sure is just Brenda, and maybe one other person who always agrees with her. So I tried to be reasonable, you guys. I really did. I was like, look, Brenda, it's not permanent. It keeps the wind off him. He's an old boy. He needs his comfort. It's not hurting anyone. She just puffed up. Rules are rules, Alex. The visual integrity of our community is paramount. That thing is an eyesore. An eyesore? It's a couple of nicely stained wooden planks around a comfy dog bed. Buster loves it. It's probably the most wholesome thing on this entire block. Anyway, she huffed and puffed some more about bylaws and harmony and blah blah blah. I told her I wasn't taking it down. It's my porch, my dog. End of story. Or so I thought. She stormed off, clipboard held like a weapon. I figured she'd send me a nasty letter. Maybe a fine. I was not expecting this. This tape. It was just so aggressive. Buster trotted out onto the porch then, tail wagging, heading for his spot. He stopped dead when he saw the tape, sniffed it, looked up at me with those big, confused brown eyes. My heart just broke. I know, buddy, I said, kneeling down to give him a scratch. She's a monster, isn't she? He licked my hand, still looking at his taped-off bed. This wasn't just about some stupid rule anymore. This was personal. This was about Brenda Bylaw thinking she could just waltz onto my property and dictate how my dog lives. Nope, not happening. I ripped down a piece of the tape. It was that cheap, flimsy plastic kind. Left a sticky residue on my railing. This is war, Brenda, I muttered, crumpling the tape in my fist. You have no idea who you just messed with. I mean, seriously, who does that? Taping off a dog bed? On someone's private porch? The audacity. The sheer, unmitigated gall of that woman. My morning coffee was officially ruined. My whole day was probably ruined. But one thing was for sure. Brenda Bylaw was going to regret this. Big time. She picked the wrong cabin, the wrong dog, and definitely the wrong homeowner. Just wait, you guys. Just you wait. So, after the initial shock and, let's be honest, pure rage, I knew I had to do something more than just rip down tape. I had to fight this. The right way. Or try to, anyway. First things first, I needed to see this supposed Section 7, subsection B, that Brenda was waving around like it was the 10 Commandments. I dug out the massive binder of HOA rules. You guys know the one. It's like an encyclopedia of things you can't do. Probably weighs 10 pounds. I'm flipping through looking for anything about exterior visual harmony and porch structures. And guess what? It was so vague. Like unbelievably vague. It said something like, all exterior modifications must maintain the aesthetic integrity of the community and require prior approval. That was basically IT. Nothing about dog beds. Nothing about 2-foot-high windbreaks. Nothing specific at all. This was just Brenda on a power trip, twisting some loosey-goosey wording to fit her agenda. Classic. So I thought, okay, maybe I can talk to someone else on the board. Maybe someone with, common sense. I remembered Debbie Dithering was on the board. She always seemed nice enough if a little, well, dithery. Always bringing cookies to HOA meetings. I gave Debbie a call. "Oh, Alex, dear," she started, her voice all fluttery. "Brenda mentioned something about your porch. A... a little doggy house?" "It's a bed enclosure, Debbie," I said, trying to keep my voice calm. "For Buster." And she taped it off like a crime scene. "Oh my. Tape? Goodness me, that does sound a bit... dramatic." "You think, Debbie?" I explained the situation, how vague the rule was, how it was just for Buster's comfort. And Debbie, bless her heart, she just dithered. "Well, dear, Brenda is very particular about the bylaws. She feels very strongly about maintaining our community standards. Perhaps if you just submitted a formal request?" I was like, "A formal request for my dog to be comfortable on my own porch? Seriously," she sighed. "I do hate disagreements, Alex. Brenda can be quite forceful when she believes she's right." Yeah, no kidding. So Debbie was a dead end. Sweet lady, zero backbone. Typical. I was starting to feel seriously stuck. Like, what do you do when the rules are vague and the person enforcing them is a complete tyrant? It felt hopeless. I was fuming all over again, pacing my living room, Buster watching me with concerned eyes. "It's not fair, buddy," I told him. "She can't just do this." I was so wound up I started stress cleaning. You guys ever do that? Just start organizing things like your life depends on it? I was rummaging through this old filing cabinet in the spare room, looking for some old warranty papers for the water heater. Totally unrelated. Just trying to distract myself. And then I saw it. A dusty, rolled-up tube tucked way in the back. I almost tossed it. I pulled it out, unrolled it. It was an old property survey. From when I bought the cabin years ago. I'm looking at it, just idly tracing the property lines of my cabin lot. Standard stuff. But then, my eyes drifted. The survey map included a larger area, and there was this other separate parcel, undeveloped, just trees and brush, also outlined as mine. It was a long, skinny piece of land at the back of my main cabin lot, running along the edge of the whole HOA development. I'd almost forgotten about it. It came with the cabin, a weird extra bit the original seller threw in. I never paid it much mind. It was just woods. I kept looking at the map. And then I saw the proposed outline for the Phase 2 development the HOA had been crowing about for months. New cabins, new road access, their planned access road. It went right through my back lot. My jaw literally dropped. I'm pretty sure I stopped breathing for a second. "Wait," I whispered, tracing the line with my finger. "No, way." The only feasible route for their fancy new road to Phase 2 cut directly across that strip of land I owned. That forgotten, useless strip of woods. Suddenly, it wasn't so useless anymore. A slow grin spread across my face. You guys, it was like a cartoon light bulb appeared over my head. Ding! Brenda Bylaw with her stupid tape and her ridiculous power trip over Buster's bed. She wanted to control my porch? Fine. Too bad I owned the key to her precious HOA's entire expansion plan. The frustration I'd been feeling? Gone. Replaced by this electrifying, almost giddy feeling. "Oh, Buster," I said, scooping him up for a hug. He's a big boy, it was more of a lean-in. "I think things are about to get very interesting for Ms. Brenda Bylaw." She thought she had me backed into a corner over a dog bed. She had no idea what was coming. This changed everything. Okay, so after that bombshell discovery, me owning the exact piece of land the HOA needed for their big fancy Phase 2 road, I was practically buzzing. You guys, the irony. Brenda's hounding me about a 2-foot doggy windbreak. And meanwhile, I'm sitting on the key to their entire kingdom. It was almost too perfect. A few days later, just as I was starting to really formulate my plan, an official-looking envelope arrived. HOA letterhead. Of course, I ripped it open. And there it was. A very stern, very formal letter, full of whereas and therefore and failure to comply. All about my unauthorized porch structure. It demanded immediate removal. Or, get this, daily fines. Daily! For Buster's bed. And then, tucked into the second paragraph, was this little gem. As our community continues to grow with the upcoming Phase 2 development, It is imperative that all homeowners maintain strict adherence to community standards to ensure a harmonious transition and uphold property values for everyone. I snorted. Harmonious transition, my foot. They were basically saying, be a good little drone and fall in line because we've got big plans and your tiny porch problem is an embarrassment. They had no clue. Absolutely zero. The letter just confirmed how blind they were. They were so focused on their grand vision, they hadn't done their basic homework on who owned what. Especially Brenda. She was so busy being a porch tyrant, she missed the forest for the trees. Literally, in this case, my trees. On my land. That letter? It just solidified my resolve. If they wanted to play hardball over Buster's bed, then fine. Game on. So, what was the plan? It was beautiful in its simplicity, really. I wasn't going to be aggressive. I wasn't going to be loud. Not yet, anyway. I was just going to say no. Politely, of course. Formally. I spent that evening looking up property records online for our county, just to be triple sure. And yup, there it was, clear as day. Alex, my last name. Owner of parcel ID, Wowers, made-up number. That little strip of land was mine, all mine. Then I started looking at the HOA's publicly filed plans for Phase 2. They'd even submitted preliminary drawings to the county planning office. And wouldn't you know it? Their proposed road, their only viable access point without some insane, miles-long detour, sliced right across my parcel, dead center. It was almost like the universe was handing me this on a silver platter. Okay, Buster, I said, pulling out a notepad. Operation Brenda Blockade is a go. He just thumped his tail, probably thinking about treats. Close enough. First step, a sign. Not just any sign, a big sign. Professional looking. I went online and designed one. Simple, clear, impossible to misunderstand. Private property, in huge letters. Underneath, access strictly prohibited. Violators will be prosecuted. And then, just for a little extra oomph, this means you, HOA. Okay, maybe I didn't add that last part to the actual sign order, but I thought it. Loudly, I ordered the biggest one they had that would still look somewhat classy, on sturdy metal. Express shipping. Oh yeah. Second step, a letter. To the HOA board. I drafted it carefully. Very formal. Very polite. Dear esteemed members of the cabin community name HOA board, it started. So proper, right? It went on to state that I, Alex, my last name, as the registered owner of parcel ID, or made-up number, had recently been made aware of the HOA's intention to construct an access road for Phase 2 across said parcel. Please be advised, I wrote, trying not to cackle maniacally, that at this time, I am not granting permission for any such access or construction on my private property. Any attempts to enter or utilize this land without my express written consent will be considered trespassing. I didn't mention Brenda. I didn't mention the porch. I didn't mention Buster. Just cold, hard, legal-sounding facts. Let them connect the dots. Or not. Their problem. I printed it on nice paper. Signed it with a flourish. The sign was due to arrive in 2 days. The letter? I was going to hand-deliver copies to the HOA mailbox and maybe even slip one under Brenda's door. Just for fun. I felt this incredible sense of calm, you guys. The anger about the porch tape was still there, simmering under the surface, but now it was focused, channeled. Brenda wanted to wield the rulebook like a weapon? Fine. I had the land deed. And in this game, land beats flimsy bylaws every single time. This wasn't just about Buster's bed anymore. This was about standing up to a bully. This was about an HOA that had gotten way too big for its britches. They think they can just push people around, I told Buster, who was now happily snoring at my feet. Well, they're about to find out what happens when someone pushes back. I leaned back in my chair, a slow smile spreading across my face. The next HOA meeting was going to be epic, or maybe the chaos would start even before that. Either way, Brenda Bylaw was in for a very, very rude awakening. And honestly, I couldn't wait to see the look on her face. All right, you guys, D-Day arrived. Or, well, S-Day. Sign day. The delivery truck pulled up, and there it was. My beautiful, professionally made, private property, no HOA access sign. It was even bigger and more official looking than I'd hoped. Perfect. I grabbed my post hole digger. Yeah, I own one. Cabin life, right? And marched out to that back lot. Buster trotted along, probably wondering what new adventure this was. Finding the exact spot where their road was supposed to go wasn't hard. They'd actually put little surveyor flags up already, the arrogant so-and-sos, right on my land. Oh, the nerve! So I picked the most prominent spot, right where those flags started, and I dug. And I planted that sign. Deep, solid, unmistakable. It looked glorious. Standing there, gleaming in the sun, basically a giant metal middle finger to the HOA's grand plans. "What do you think, boy?" I asked Buster. He sniffed the base of the post and gave it his seal of approval, if you know what I mean. Good enough for me. Phase 1 of Operation Brenda Blockade, complete. Next, the letters. I strolled over to the community mailbox area, slipped a crisp, formally addressed envelope into the HOA slot. Then, for a little personal touch, I walked right up to Brenda Bylaw's cabin. It's one of those overly neat ones, of course, with unnervingly symmetrical flower beds, and slid another copy right under her front door. I didn't ring the bell. Just a silent delivery. Let her find it. And then, I waited. It didn't take long, like maybe 2 hours. My phone rang. Caller ID. HOA office, which is basically Debbie Dithering's sunroom. Alex. "Oh, Alex, dear, is that you?" Debbie sounded even more fluttery than usual, like a hummingbird trapped in a jar. "Hi, Debbie," I said, trying to sound casual. "What's up?" "Well, Alex, we received your letter, and there seems to be some confusion about the Phase 2 access road." "No confusion on my end, Debbie," I said cheerfully. "It's my land. No access. Pretty straightforward. But the plans. The surveyors. Brenda is quite upset, Alex. She says there must be a mistake." "The only mistake," I said, my voice hardening just a little, "was the HOA assuming they could use my private property without asking, and someone taping off my dog's bed on my porch." Silence on the other end. Then a gulp. "Oh dear. Brenda is on her way over to you right now, Alex. With Gary. Gary the Grumpy. Of course. Brenda probably needed someone to carry her clipboard of fury." "Good," I said. "I'll put the kettle on." Not really, but it sounded good. I hung up and went out to my porch, sat in my favorite chair. Buster laid down at my feet. We waited. Sure enough, a few minutes later, here comes Brenda Bylaw, marching down my driveway like she's leading a parade of indignation. Gary the Grumpy trailed behind her, looking, well, grumpy, and like he'd rather be anywhere else. Brenda's face was red, like beet red. I'd never seen her so flustered. Her usually perfect bun was even a little crooked. Oh, this was rich. "Alex!" she barked, storming right up to the porch steps. No hello, no preamble. Straight to DEFCON 1. What is the meaning of this outrageous letter? And that sign on the access path? "Hi, Brenda." "Hi, Gary," I said calmly, taking a sip of my imaginary tea. "Nice day, isn't it?" Gary just grunted. "Do not play games with me, Alex," Brenda shrieked. "Yes," shrieked. "That land is vital for the Phase 2 development. You cannot simply block it." "Actually, Brenda," I said, leaning forward slightly, "I can. Because you see, I own it. It's my private property. And as the owner, I'm exercising my right to deny access," Brenda sputtered. But the community, the greater good. The bylaws clearly state—" "The bylaws, Brenda," I interrupted, my voice very quiet but very firm, "do not grant the HOA the right to seize private land. And frankly, after your little stunt with the tape on my porch, trying to dictate where my elderly dog can sleep, my willingness to cooperate with the HOA on anything is, shall we say, at an all-time low." Gary the Grumpy actually winced. Brenda looked like I'd slapped her. The porch incident is entirely separate," she insisted, though her voice had lost some of its steam. "This is about the progress of our entire community." "To me, Brenda, it's all connected," I said. "You overstep your bounds on something small and personal. You try to bully me with made-up rule interpretations, and then you expect me to just roll over and let you pave a road through my backyard? I don't think so." Brenda opened her mouth, then closed it. She looked at Gary. Gary just shrugged. A monumental effort for him. The realization was dawning, slowly, painfully, across Brenda's furious, beet-red face. They were stuck, royally, completely, utterly stuck. Her precious Phase 2, her grand vision, all of it, hinged on me, the person whose dog bed she'd declared an eyesore. The silence stretched. Buster even let out a little sigh, like he was bored of the drama. Brenda's shoulders sagged. Just a little. But I saw it. This This is unacceptable, she finally whispered. But it sounded more like a plea than a demand. Tell you what's unacceptable, Brenda, I said, standing up. Harassing homeowners, abusing your position, and taping off a sick old dog's bed. Now, if you'll excuse me, Buster and I have some porch sitting to do. Uninterrupted. I turned and walked back towards my cabin door. They just stood there, speechless, defeated. Oh, you guys. The look on Brenda Bylaw's face? Priceless. Absolutely priceless. You guys, after that showdown, my phone did not stop ringing. First, it was Debbie dithering again, practically in tears. Alex, dear, please. We have to find a solution. The developers are calling. The board is in an uproar. Brenda is inconsolable. Good, I said. Okay, maybe that was a bit harsh. But honestly, not really. Then Gary the Grumpy called, which never happens. He actually sounded worried. Look, Alex, he grumbled. This phase 2 thing, it's a big deal. Lots of money involved. Can't you just, let him build the road? Can Brenda let my dog sleep on my porch in peace, Gary? I asked. He just sighed and hung up. The HOA even tried sending their lawyer after me. I got a very official-sounding letter talking about easements by necessity and implied consent, blah, blah, blah. I knew they were bluffing. My property survey was ironclad. There was no existing easement. And implied consent? After Brenda's porch attack? I think not. I just sent back a polite one-sentence reply. Access remains denied. The best part? The community grapevine went wild. Everyone was talking. Did you hear Alex block the new road? Brenda Bylaw finally met her match. People I barely knew were giving me thumbs up when I drove by. It was kind of amazing. Apparently, Brenda tried to rally the troops at an emergency HOA meeting. Tried to paint me as the villain, the one holding up progress. But from what I heard, it backfired. Big time. People started asking her questions. Like, Brenda, why didn't you check who owned the land before you spent all this money on surveyors and plans? And, Brenda, is it true you tried to fine Alex over a dog bed? She apparently got really defensive, started quoting bylaws again, and people just weren't having it. The tide had turned. Her reign of clipboard terror was crumbling. A week later, I got a very different kind of call. It was from the HOA president, a guy named Tom who usually stayed pretty quiet and let Brenda run her little fiefdom. Alex, he said, his voice tired, we need to talk. About the road. And other things. So we met. Not at my cabin, not at the HOA office. On neutral ground, at the little community park. Tom didn't beat around the bush. Okay, Alex, you've made your point. The road is stuck. What's it going to take? I looked him in the eye. First, Brenda Bylaw is removed from any and all positions involving bylaw enforcement or architectural review. Permanently. Tom winced. That's a big ask, Alex. She abused her power, Tom. She harassed me. She targeted my pet. She cost this HOA a fortune in wasted planning because she was too busy being a petty tyrant to do her due diligence. She's a liability, he sighed. Okay, that can be discussed at the next board vote. What else? Second, I said, a formal written apology from the HOA. To me, and specifically to Buster, for the distress caused by the ridiculous porch incident, and a public declaration that my porch and Buster's bed enclosure are perfectly acceptable and not in violation of any rule, now or ever. Tom actually cracked a small smile at that. An apology to the dog, huh? He was very distressed, I said seriously. All right, Alex, I think we can work with that. If those conditions are met, will you grant easement for the road? I thought about it for a second. I could have dragged it out. I could have demanded a fortune. But honestly, that wasn't the point. The point was stopping Brenda. The point was peace and quiet. Yes, I said. If those conditions are met, in writing, and action is taken on Brenda, I'll grant the easement. For a nominal fee. Say $1. Tom looked relieved. You got it. And you know what, you guys? They actually did it. At the next official HOA meeting, Brenda Bylaw was formally reassigned from all enforcement duties. Basically, stripped of her power. She tried to argue, but the board, now facing a massive financial hit if Phase 2 collapsed, voted her down. She looked utterly defeated. It was beautiful. I got my written apology. Addressed to Alex and Mr. Buster, my last name, I framed it. It's hysterical. And the best part? The day after the meeting, Brenda Bylaw herself, looking like she'd swallowed a lemon, had to come to my cabin. Not to apologize. She wasn't that humbled. But because the board made her the one to deliver the official HOA resolution stating my porch was fine, she just handed me the paper, mumbled something under her breath, and practically ran away. I watched her go, then went out to the porch. The off-limits tape was long gone, of course. Buster was snoozing peacefully in his little enclosure, snoring softly. I sat down, coffee in hand, just like that morning that started it all. But this time, pure, unadulterated peace. The road to Phase 2 eventually got built. The HOA had to eat some serious crow, and a lot of extra cost for the delay, but it happened. And Brenda? Well, she's still around, but she's quiet. No clipboard, no marching, just another resident. It's amazing how quickly someone deflates when their petty power is taken away. So yeah, that's the story of how the HOA kicked me off my cabin porch, or tried to, and how owning a forgotten piece of land saved the day. And Buster's favorite napping spot. Sometimes, you guys, you just gotta stand your ground, especially when they mess with your dog. Thanks for listening to my crazy HOA saga. Let me know in the comments if you've had any wild HOA encounters. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Catch you in the next one.